Coal is very cheap, very plentiful. It is very easy, to transport it by trucks, by ships, through the railway. It's easy, to store them. You can just dump it someplace and burn it whenever you want to. And also it can be used, to make it into the liquid fuel. Of course, there are a lot of disadvantages to coal, and mainly is that it's the dirtiest of all the fossil fuel, produces a lot of the greenhouse gases, and so in compared to the amount of the energy that will produce, so it can be environmentally very damaging. Petroleum is a liquid form of fossil fuel. It's called the black gold. It is buried underneath, usually petroleum in association with some natural gas and some brine, which is the salt water. They're all present at the same place, the same reservoir. Why petroleum is so much in demand? Basically, oil delivers more than 15 times the energy of an equal mass of dynamite, 700 times the energy of the bullet. We discussed about some of that before. 100 times more energy than basically the batteries in the laptop. Oil can produce a lot of work. The same amount of oil is in 1 gallon, produces as much work as 20 workers, working 10 hours a day for an entire day. So, and then it can be very useful for many purposes. It is the main ingredient for a variety of consumer products, including pharmaceutical, cosmetic, clothing, pesticides, lubricants, solvent, etc., etc. And finally, it is cheap. Well, I'm not going to go through the history of the oil production, and again, there are plenty of that is being discussed in great detail in the textbook. But just in short, oil has been around from a very, very long time, so over several thousand years. It was used first, to basically as a caulking to seal the cracks, eventually for the heating, lighting, and use it, to put a fire to enemies. And eventually nothing happened to middle of the 19th century when they found out that oil can be used to refine to produce kerosene. That substituted the whale oil, which was a lot of whales were killed, for their fat. It was smelly, it was not very good quality, and it wasn't, but that was the only sources people were using for illumination, and so that basically saved the whales from the extinction. And then eventually oil was basically found in US, and the Rockefeller was a big entrepreneur that basically bought the oil, refined it, and eventually dominated the market. Oil is in the United States in 3 major states, or 5, the highest 3 is Texas and Alaska and California, but also there are some in New Mexico and Louisiana. At the turn of the century, the oil was plentiful, and the United States was the main exporter of the oil. There was so much that the market, when was flooded, eventually led to 1929, was one of the main causes of the collapse of economy in the late 1920s. By 1930s, there were oil found in the Persia, but eventually in 1933 there were oil was discovered in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, and much of the Gulf states. And by the 1950s, pretty much the market was flooded, and these countries, they decided they have to protect, their oil revenue. Most of these Middle Eastern countries, they have one source of revenue, and so they thought, okay, well, this is their only livelihood, so they have to find strategies that they prevent from the price of oil to drop too much. And they formed the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries in 1960s. There were five original signatories. It was Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Libya, and Venezuela. Eventually, other countries joined, and today we have 12 countries which are the members of the OPEC. These are the 12 members. Up to last year, Indonesia was a member, but 2 years ago actually, Indonesia from the net exporter became an importer, so OPEC substituted Ecuador for Indonesia. As you can see, the price of oil, the red line is the adjusted price of the oil, and you can see that at the time that was sold. So the price of oil was very, very low, as you can see, for until 1970s. And in 1970s, or late 1970s, there was the Iranian Revolution, and that caused a very jump in the price of the oil, and then that followed by the Iran-Iraq war, and that lasted another 10 years, and the price of oil reaches all-time high, reaches about $90 per barrel. After the crisis was, after a few years, the price of oil were dropped sharply, and then again rose during the first Gulf War, and then eventually the second Gulf War. And now, after we found the non-conventional fossil fuel, the price of oil is dropping, and now today is at its all-time low in the last at least 12-13 years, and oil is going at about $30-35 per barrel, which was in the early 2000s. As you can see from this diagram, pretty much the price of oil had been following the global politics, and whenever there had been some crisis, the prices had risen and then they dropped back again. Okay, this diagram basically compares the supply and the demand. Who has it? You can see that these are the countries. Well, you might be surprised. Venezuela has the highest amount of world petroleum. Venezuela considers, what they have in the tar sands, it's a major source of tar sand, as petroleum. So that comes, even on top of of Saudi Arabia. But the conventional fuels, the Saudi Arabia has become number one, and then non-conventional form. Canada has a lot of tar sands, and the rest of the countries, Iran, Iraq, these are the countries, the main sources of the petroleum. If you look at this list, pretty much all of the countries are, except for Canada, they're not quite friendly to the United States, or they are very stable. So that had been the main concern for the United States, and many times U.S. has protected its interests, much of it through the war or through the sanction and through the manipulation of the market. Well, U.S. is the top consumer of the oil. About 20% of the world oil is being used in the U.S., so you can see the significance of that. China was very, very low up to about a decade ago, but now it started to increase because of the rapid expansion during the 2000s and up to today. Because of rapid concerns, China had been using more and more petroleum, and now it's a second in the list. You can look at the rest of them and read more about it in textbook.